Okay, so this is a presentation on the first central bank of the United States and how this set up our first economy. So, before the Constitution was ratified, the country was run under the Articles of Confederation. And the problem with that, there was a weak form of government that didn't grant the federal branch any powers at all. And with currencies, there was a lot of competition among state and local banknotes. But with the formation of the Constitution, the government received new powers. They had the power to lay and exercise taxes, and in helping with that, some felt that a national bank would help collect money from all states, so the government would have money to run. So the structure of the first bank of the United States is fairly simple. It would have $10 million in starting capital, $2 million would be a government share, and $8 million would come from private investors. The bank charter would have a 20-year lifespan, it would be based in Philadelphia, and the banknotes would be backed by the United States government. There was a big battle over incorporation because no one was really sure how to interpret the Constitution because the document was so new. On two sides, there were the Federalists and Anti-Federalists. And Alexander Hamilton was a Federalist, and he believed that the Constitution could be interpreted broadly, and it would allow for the bank to exist. Thomas Jefferson thought the Constitution should be read more literally, and he opposed the bank since the Constitution didn't give government powers to incorporate the institution. But behind those legal arguments were conflictions of two different lifestyles in the United States. The urban lifestyle, which supported banking, and the agrarian lifestyle, which did not support banking and held debt as a moral evil. So as a result of the debate that took place, there were two factions that spread off, the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. And some historians argue that this is the beginning of America's two-party system. Though the parties changed, there have always been two major parties that tended to run in opposition to each other. So Alexander Hamilton won. He convinced George Washington to charter the bank, and with it came the birth of modern finance and financial markets as we see them today. Now, a lot of the bank was financed by debt. The $8 million that was supposed to come from private capital was raised by selling 20,000 shares at $400 per share to the public. But you only needed $100 in real wealth, basically in precious metals, to be able to get one of the shares. So you could basically buy shares on margin. So there was a frenzy to get shares, and it kind of led to a little mini bubble. And once the bank actually came into existence, demand for the bus script or the Bank of the United States banknotes rose quickly. Existing banks offered credit to people who wanted to buy the scripts because they saw that it was rising in value, and they figured they'd get their money back when the person taking on the debt would sell the banknotes and pay them back. But when the prices reached a peak and no one could afford it, they fell. Those other lenders restricted borrowing, and that caused a huge drop in the price of the bank stock, and that caused our first panic. Also, the bank, sort of the birth of fractional reserve banking, which is a system that we use now with the Federal Reserve. And what that means is that the bank allowed itself to print out 5 times the amount of currency that it had gold in reserves. So what happened was there was one speculator named William Dewar who began purchasing government securities on credit, and that inflated their price. So then another bubble formed, and it crashed when the Bank of the United States restricted loans. And Alexander Hamilton was forced to borrow money from Holland to inject currency into the financial system to keep everything afloat. So these patterns of unlimited lending and then restriction of that money basically played out in all prominent financial disasters, like in 1929 and in 2008. So in that sense, some historians see the first Bank of the United States as setting up basically the financial system that's remained with America since its beginning. Thank you for listening.